It do work. Sorry about the AC sound again. Another such open hours. And we are back. We are back. Yet again. Second time today, if you caught the podcast earlier. Perhaps you didn't. Did that work? So it did or didn't fire it up? It did fire it up. Okay. Haha. There we go. Alright, so something that shouldn't happen is issues with new products. So let's hop on over here. We need to take a look at this. This is a, what is this thing? Dell G3 15 gaming computer. Dell G3 15 3579, I believe. So a gaming computer. We're gonna go ahead. We gotta get it turned on, and all will be well. Let's do that. Give it a buff up. We did have it open. We got the initial user setup done. Now we're just taking some dust off of the screen. Dust happens when you work in a dusty environment with all kinds of machines coming in. Guess we shouldn't have a clean room for computers, right? Anyhow, shine it up. Semi-new, out of the box, not fresh. I didn't peel it out of the box right now. And I realized that the AC is on. So we're going to have to kill that for you to hear this particular noise. We're going to go ahead and get this started up. Alright, and before you buy a product, I think it is important to note that, how do I want to say this? Check it out. Check out some reviews. We're going to lay this on its back for this. So we'll get the trusty black mat. We'll throw that down and then set this here computer on its back. And what we're going to pay attention to is our grills here. Actually, I don't think we need to turn it. But I'm going to kill the AC. Give me 1 sec, and then we're going to start up a benchmark on this. Okay, so we got our AC running, or AC not running now. Computer running. We're going to fire up the Heaven benchmark. But just so you can see what I'm talking about now. Oh boy. Alright, and if that cable worked, we should have a working mic again, and we do. Okay, so with this thing, normally, when it's just sitting there idle, you're not going to hear a whole lot. Now, I suppose we could do it with some YouTube videos or the Intel burn test, but we'll just fire up the Heaven benchmark real quick. We're going to put run, and then we're going to pay attention. We're going to mute it, make sure it's muted. That should unmute. Once it starts up and we have sound, then we'll go ahead and mute it. Okay, so we do have some sound. We'll mute that, more importantly. Hopefully you can hear that rattling. I'm going to let this run for a moment to get it warmed up, to get the GPU and CPU warm, and then we're going to kill this and let the fan idle down some, and then it'll run at this steady RPM, a lower RPM. At higher RPMs, the rattle goes away with these. You can read online that some people have had success in getting it fixed through Dell. Others haven't. They sent it in, you know, give or take 3 to 5 weeks of messing about with a brand new computer. You shouldn't have to mess about with a brand new computer. I'm gonna turn the mic up. Hopefully you could hear that buzzing. Let's kill the Heaven benchmark now. Close and quit here. I'm going to hit OK. Just in case. Okay, just in case, I'm going to say you have to be able to hear some rattling there. If you do or don't, we can get rid of that. Now, some people say it's a cheaply designed cooler and they've stuck a bandage on the computer to solve it. Other people have said that they've done this or that and solved it. They sent it in for repair and it solved it. They sent it in for repair and it didn't solve it. Do we have... Is it that way? Yeah, okay, so that is working. Focus is working. We're going to go ahead. And this is something, unless you're upgrading, something you shouldn't do with a new computer out of box. Give me a moment. Boss is calling. Apologies, my friends, but I typically don't ignore calls from my wife or kids or my boss, actual boss. So. Okay, so all these screws on this model are going to come out all the way around except for your back two. Those are the two that aren't going to come out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 screws will come out. These two should stay in. They have little C-clips on the other side that retain them in place where they need to be. If this is anything like other start on your front, you can grab it, literally unclick it, and then go to the side that has the least amount of ports. You can see that we've got power, USB-C, HDMI, Ethernet, USB 3, USB 3, and a headphone jack. Versus this side, you've literally got Kensington lock, a USB 2, and an SD slot start on the front. And then go to your right hand side and make sure you have both of these screws in the back unscrewed all the way, and it should release right off of there for you. Alright, and taking a look, we got a spot for our hard drive, we've got our dual fans, battery, everything's good here. we don't need to unplug this battery. You could, you should. I mean, if you're that paranoid. But what we want to do is we want to take out this fan here, so we're going to work on getting it loose. One and two. Alright, and also what we've got to replace it. And this should never happen with a new or even a refurb computer. I'm going to say, if you're getting a quality one from somewhere, it shouldn't happen. That, and while we're at it, we're going to go ahead and do a repaste. Alright, that's our guy. So we ordered a set of fans. Funny enough, it looks like an identical fan that we're going to put into it. I mean, very identical and almost like the same one. Oh. Alright, thank you, Patty. Nice for running up and grabbing that stuff for us, too. Alrighty.
Let me know when you're hungry, too.
Oh, I already ate that food, lunch.
Yeah.
Alright, so let's take a look at these fans quick here. So they basically do look fairly identical. Like, get this out of the way for the moment. It's super identical, and even the same on the back. The Dell part number sticker's upside down on one, and this is missing off of the center of the other, but other than that, I mean, they have to be the same fan. And we know this is the one out of the Dell here. We're going to toss it to the side. We want to get rid of that annoying rattle. But while we're at it, I think that we might be able to do a repaste on this. I never like stock paste jobs, even new. Usually if the computer's been assembled and sitting for a while, it's dried out, so we'll go ahead and put some newer paste on. There is going to be, when you tear this apart, there's going to be all kinds of thermal pads under there that you don't want to lose. They're responsible for cooling other things, so try not to lose them. And before we go much further, I'm going to take a moment. We need to unplug this battery before we start cranking around. Where'd my pry stick go? There it is. And I don't know if this is new or new recertified, but I can't remember which, but it was ordered for a customer. So let's unplug that. Alright, battery's unplugged at that point. Oh, don't stick together, you. We want you unstuck. We'll seal you back down in a little bit. Okay. Battery's undone at this point now. We'll take and remove the rest of our heatsink. These 4 screws came out. These 4 will be retained, the same as the 2 back here when taking the bottom chassis off. Get out of there, sticker. Sticker, sticker, sticker. Get out of there. Alright, so we're going to have to... Oh, that's stretch release tape. That's good. We can put it back if need be. Alright. I dig it. I dig it. Okay, so there's what we're looking at. Yes, and like I said, I'm not much of a fan of stock. Now granted, let's say it was new and wet thermal paste. Okay. When you lift it, you're going to create these little air gaps. But I truly believe that, let's try and get in there on that. Okay. You can see. I don't think those gaps were created lifting this off of there. I think those gaps were created by it drying out a little. So what we're going to do is take and clean off our CPU, GPU, and clean these off. Try not to lose any of our thermal pads that we have on there, and then we'll be good to go. Zoom that back out, and then we'll take and look at the computer there. Get our alcohol. Where are you? There. And let's get our fancy brush for knocking thermal compound off, and we're going to hold this in probably this orientation over a trash can. That way this stuff will fall right off, this will fall, and none should fall on these silicone thermal pads. And this stuff is not greasy, not smearing around, it is just crumbling up. So it's not new. I'm going to say the computer's been on. I think it possibly recertified, but whoever did it, recertified, refurbished, it is not, was not done, or did not have new thermal paste applied. So real quick, let's knock it off of the CPU and GPU. Put our brush back. I know it gets echoey when I go away, but that's the way it is. Okay, so here's our computer. I'm going to get the IPA. On our Q-tip, clean both of these off. Get away from there. And we'll put some new thermal compound on. What would be bad is if we're out. I hope we're not. I'm going to have to run up the road to our electronics store and grab some. Actually, I think now we have another tube here. We do. We do. We do. Alright. Oh, alright, so that's cleaning the thermal paste off. We got both of these. Well, did I get both? I better redo it. I don't think I did this side. No, I didn't. So let's wipe this one quick. Wipe it down, then we'll go for the GPU side, or CPU,
Where'd that
whichever
little
one.
ashtray go?
do this. Alright, so
Yeah,
that's
you
that.
finish up there. I'm good.
I know you're gonna watch, huh?
Mm-hmm.
That's okay.
Just that one that.
Alright, so thermal paste applied, do your grain of rice tactic or whatever, big, little bigger, 2 grains of rice, however big you want to call it. We're going to reapply this. Make sure your screws are lined up where they need to be, not putting whatever purpose that was in there for. I'll probably regret it later with that stretch release. That may not be stock. I'm guessing that was third party. I've never seen that other than to hold in displays. So that's, like I said, that was probably somebody else doing that. So we're going to put this on, do the diagonals on this side. Crank them down, then we'll do our diagonals over here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we'll go back and put the 2 remaining screws in for the, what is that, GPU side, I believe. And install our fan and call it. Matter of fact, I think that there was some troubleshooting going on prior to doing all this with the fan and whatnot. So I'm going to say that let's throw our new fan in wherever it is. Here's our new. We're going to go ahead and put that in, get the screw first, plug it in, then put it in, screw it down, realign our display cable. So that's going to set right in place. You got to get your display cable out of the way and reroute it. Over, over, under, over, and then tuck it in around this corner. And we're ready to fasten the fan back in. I do have an inclination to tear out the bracket for the hard drive and the cable since it's not going to be used, and that could be buzzing around inside the case, but I'm going to say it's not. This is glued down, and I'm saying in no way did that make that amount of noise. And we'll check it real quick again, throw the bottom on. We could probably check it with the bottom off, but we'll get this thing buttoned back up, back together. Alright, there's our tape. Check all of our screws for the GPU and the CPU. Make sure they're torqued down. You don't need them done with a torque wrench or arm strength or hand strength. Finger strength is good and will hold it. You crank them much tighter, you're going to break them loose, and then there you go. You're not cooling your computer very adequately. Same thing back on, set it straight down on, flip it up, squeeze your front shut. You can go for each side, and then the back will kind of pull in once you tighten down these 2 that were retained with the C clips. Alright, we have a few screws to go over still. We'll run around, put these in. And this is always the part. Putting them in, taking them out is always the part where I wish I had one of those micro electric screwdrivers that are like $100 or whatever. Like, I forget the brand who makes them. They're like $100, and it's like the size of, you know, not much bigger around than this part of the marker, and it's a powered screwdriver. But then again, hopefully they're low torque and they don't strip out these tiny little screws when you put them in. But the old-fashioned way just happens to work for me, so. And that is a fan replacement and new thermal paste on a Dell G3 153579 gaming laptop. I think it's a 2019 model. It doesn't have the Infinity Edge display, so I know it's not a 2020. It'd be nice if it did, but it doesn't. But that is a nice feature. I like the way those displays look, but having little to no bezel around it, if you get any bumps, it's done for. Let's go ahead and flip this thing on its back and see if we can detect that buzzing, that audible buzzing coming from it. We shouldn't. We're going to fire it up and start up our Heaven benchmark. Really? We got a BIOS warning from a Dell power supply? Continue, you knucklehead. So this is a Dell. This is a Dell. They should work together. Let's let this boot up. Alright, so we're here. We're going to fire up Heaven again, the Heaven benchmark, just to get things ramped up, and we're not paying attention to the numbers. We're just listening for sound. Did I not click it? I may not have. No, I did. I was just being impatient. Alright, run it. We're going to ramp it up and listen for the sound, and if that's it, that's it. Alright, starting. As soon as we get it going, we'll let it heat up for just a moment, like I said, and then we're going to kill it to let the fan get to that slow idle. Once it gets to that slow idle, that's what we want to listen for. I wonder if I ran it twice. How crazy would that be? I did. Look at that. Okay, so let's kill the one instance and Alt-Tab back in. And we'll just wait for our fans. Usually doesn't take long. It's running this at, well, not the highest specs, but fairly high specs because of the hardware. Wow, was the thermal paste that bad that it was dry and not making contact? We're making contact and it's actually cooling by air now on a benchmark. We're gonna fire it up. We're gonna raise the specs a little bit. Custom 11, yeah. Let's go with normal. And our aliasing, we'll turn it up to 2. system and run. And again, the benchmark, how we're running it, don't really matter. What we're listening for is sound. How can we do this? Alright. So they're already running at a low RPM, and that's good. Let's turn the gain way up. We're way up on the gain. And we should hear fan noise only, if anything. And no buzz, grinding, whirring sound. And then it's going to start ramping up as the benchmark goes. But no sound. No sound like we'd previously heard. So I think we'll call that problem one solved for the time being. Can we close it? And we did. Alt F4 out, and we actually have the person here to pick this up, so we will do that, and we can tell her all about it. And end it there. So anyhow, Dell G3 153579 model. If you have the grinding, buzzing, whatever you want to call it, and it's not the sound of whenever you have something loose, like a screw floating around with the fan blades and it's banging it around, and then maybe it gets stuck in wedges between the sidewall and your fan blade. But the actual noise where you can hear an audible noise from either side or the other. That's what we're talking about. Some people have said they've solved it by putting spacers in different places, and how you could tell, you'd have to make a special adapter. You're going to have to find a jack or find wires with pins to take and plug in to your fan. But you actually make something. Plug this into 5 volts, get your positive and negative right, spin your fan up and listen to it. If you have to, press it to your cheek, your forehead, and you will hear the buzzing in the fan even at a low or high RPM. If it's doing that, other than just blowing air, you know you got a bad fan, and that should take care of it. I'm not saying there's not defects in any of these or in the manufacturing of any computer, because there can be at certain times, but more often than not it's going to be a fan issue versus a manufacturing issue where something's a little out of place that you can't adjust, like undoing screws and adjusting the fan slightly. So anyhow, have a good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. If this is your thing, you're into this stuff, fixing it, share it, get it out there. Share this, like this. As a matter of fact, thank you for watching, and I gotta find the button that ends it. I always forget where it ends it. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow with something else. Have a good one.